Hello and welcome to Midwest Writers Room. Our mission is to encourage, educate, and celebrate writers of the Midwest. I'm Luella Schmidt.
And I'm Ken Humphrey. Today we are interviewing Sarah Tilton. Sarah, who writes under the pen name Serra Wildheart, is a multi-genre indie author, speaker, and coach. The Legends of Star Junction series invites readers on an entertaining and insightful journey with captivating characters and mystical allies. She is a managing co-founder of Scribe Hive Publishing, which is a cooperative of indie authors.
In addition to the Legends of Star Junction series, she also published The Rebel Dogs, a just for fun book to raise money for animal rescues, and the forthcoming Lucy and Fizzy Adventure Dogs series, which includes fun and educational books for kids. The rest of her time is spent hiking with dogs, painting, baking, and sharing good food, wine, and travels with her beloved dog dad, otherwise known as her husband. Hi, Sarah. It's really nice to have you back on Midwest Writers Room. How you doing?
Oh, I'm fantastic. Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be back.
Yep, great to have you back. And from your bio, I'm sensing a bit of a theme about dogs. And as a dog dad myself, hey, good on you. So before we dive into your story, longtime listeners of the program may remember Sarah coming on. It's probably been a couple years now, and talking about Scribe Hive Publishing. But for those who didn't hear it or don't remember it, let's just briefly recap what it is and why you launched Scribe Hive in the first place.
Sure. Scribe Hive Publishing is an authors publishing cooperative. Essentially, we have created a brand that independent authors can publish under and have a community, sense of community, help, guidelines, and share resources. So our website and all the things that go into a website and our online store are all shared resources that any of our authors can use. We had a group of writers. We were meeting via Zoom, and some of us were reaching that point of being ready to publish. And um, a couple were querying agents and just pulling their hair out and being frustrated because that wasn't their goal. And I'm like, yes, you are. You're going to publish. So we founded it that way. We now have 8 publishing authors and a couple who haven't published yet, but are working on it. And we launched a writing group with it called the Write Hive. So people can join a online writing group, meets via Zoom. We have 4 different meetings a week that people could choose to come to. And it's just creating that container space for body doubling or that concept where people can have a sort of a shared task but work independently at the same time. And there's been some really good we've had a couple members who have moved on to join us as authors and publish, so it's been fun.
That's great. And that kind of does answer the next question I was going to have. It sounds like you've added people since we
Yeah.
first discussed it, which is great. And, anytime you got growth, that's a great thing, right?
Yeah, we've added people, and I will say we've lost a couple. One person went into she found an agent, and I told her, I said, when you get an agent, they're going to tell you to leave. And she's like, oh, my agent said I had to leave. And I'm like, yeah, I know. It's okay. Like, it's all good. That's the one thing about is if the it's a yearly, people join as a cooperative, so they pay a yearly fee, which is really low. And but it's completely up to them. Since they maintain their rights, 100% of their rights, they don't have to um, they can just say, hey, I got it. I'm moving on to this other deal. We'll take their stuff down. They can redo, it's all good. But yes, we have added, we've tried to do it somewhat slowly because I don't like working out the systems. We're learning as we go and how things work best. But we seem to be getting it down. So
That's great to hear. All right, let's shift gears a little bit. Let's talk about you and what we like to call the origin story. So, give us the 10-second primer on Sarah Tilton. Like, when did you know you wanted to write, and what was the path that brought you to today?
I think I always knew I wanted to write. As a kid, I was, writing little stories and poetry and lyrics, driving my family crazy, singing in just random songs that I made up. But, um, but I think I took the path of avoidance, to get here. So I spent a lot of time not focusing on the writing. I did some magazine writing. I did a little bit of freelance, but mostly I was working traditional jobs and paying bills and saying, I don't have time to write. You know, I'm too tired. I don't want to. And a lot of things happened that led up to this, but when 2020 came, I was renting a room in a condo. My landlord decided she was going to sell the condo. I was furloughed from my real job, and I was like, I think this is the time to change everything. So all my stuff went into storage. I hit the road. I took a solo road trip and was camping and hiking in like Zion and Bryce Canyon and the North Rim of the Grand Canyon. And the story started to come. And I didn't know what it was at first. I just kept hearing these characters in my head and thinking, I wonder what that is. And so I started writing it down, not knowing what it was yet. I didn't know if it's a kid's book or what. And I probably had about 30,000 words before I'm like, no, this is like this. It has kids in it, but it's not for kids, you know. And then I joined a program to help me stay focused. Because I was just determined that I had started books in the past, but they never got past a couple chapters. So like I have to figure out a way to support myself in the completion of this. It just felt like the highest priority. So when things started to return to normal, instead of me returning to normal, I took a job at the North Rim of the Grand Canyon for the season to be in the setting of the book and support myself while I was there instead of, signing a lease in a new apartment and paying utility, I just was in a dorm. Not ideal, by the way. As an adult, dorms are tough. I was like, okay, I remember this. But it was the best thing I could have done. And then, of course, I met my now husband at that job. So, yeah, the what I call the fourth date was a 48 state road trip with those dogs, which is why we have a lot of material to write books with.
All right. So, Luella, side with me here. Is this like the coolest origin story
I
trigger
cannot.
moment that we've come across? I mean, most of us is like I was staring blankly out the window one day and I decided to write. Yours is just way cool. That's movie worthy.
Oh, I mean, like just leaning into what is obviously a muse for you, right? These nature, Bryce
Yeah.
Canyon and Zion, and then, life handed you arguably a lemon, and you were like, "Oh, this is my time." Like that
Yeah.
is really great.
Yeah,
That is, yeah.
it was an partly an exercise in trust. Like I'm just okay, yes, I'm just going with it. Yes, there was a book out years ago by Michael Singer called the Surrender Experiment, where he talks about that. When an opportunity arises, he figured out if he said yes, even if he had reservations, even if, I don't know, that's not really me, whatever. Okay, I'll do it. If it wasn't meant to be, it wouldn't happen. So he went through a fairly extraordinary life doing that, and I'm like, okay, I'll try it. It's really hard.
So, all right, we know why you started writing and what a great path that dropped you on our laps today. Let's talk about the books themselves. So what do you got out there?
So, the Legends of Star Junction series, the first one is Return to Star Junction. And I didn't know I was writing a series until I finished the first draft of that, and then I kind of had the I'll call them downloads of the ideas for a prequel and a sequel. So the second book is Keepers of the Star Path, and that is actually the prequel because I realized as I was writing Return to Star Junction, and this is probably a side effect of being, self-published, is that people were probably going to want to know more about the place. Because Star Junction is a character in really, and the people of the place that came before that created where it was. So like, okay, I can do that, I think. And then now I'm working on book three, which is picks up where the first book left off and should kind of wrap it all up. But they are uh, really stories of returning home, not just a place, but self and essence and, you know, um, something deeper than my checkoff list, things I have to do. And I my goal is to write things that that light us up rather than, I mean, it's not that I don't enjoy a good, stressful, tense, well-written thriller or something, but I don't write that well. And if I were writing it, I would like have nightmares probably. So I write things that don't give me nightmares and that, add a little hope and light in the world because
What
I'm a
what
goody two shoes.
yeah, what genre do you classify these as?
Um, well, I put them into magical realism. Some would put them into like a spiritual fiction, not religious at all, but just more, it's the interconnection of all things. So, and some might put them into women's fiction because the main characters are women and it's a matriarchal line. So,
Got it.
but
So
yeah.
when you realized that there was more than just the one book, like this could become a series, you were still writing the first book, correct? It hadn't been done yet?
Correct. It was, I finished the first draft, but then there, obviously, we know there's the first draft is just the beginning of that book, right? Um, but true.
So then that caused you to have to go back and kind of seed that first book with all the things that you wanted to talk about before and after?
Yes. I did, I did seed the first book. What became the challenge was once I had the developmental edits done, and I was told, this chapter is beautifully written, but not necessary. That one where they're like, you could take that out. And I'm like, but I can't. I don't want to. But I knew that that chapter had to do with what was coming. So it was hard. Some of it I realized, I finally said, well, it's okay. I can take it out because I can put it in somewhere else, or I'll just put a line in. I had to redo it to try to plant the seed without it taking away and just being extra. Um, and then I realized as I was writing book 3 that I actually deleted things that I forgot that I deleted. So then, then I had to come in and, oh, that's right. I never did that. They don't know what I'm talking about. All right, I gotta figure this out. So
Yeah. And
it
I asked that
is,
question just as somebody who's written a novel, finished it, and said, wait a minute, that's actually a series, but I didn't set it up enough in that
mm-hmm,
novel. It's like, crap, how do I work around that? So that's always tough. So you're working on the third one now.
mm-hmm.
What's your drop date on that? Do you have a target for publication?
I do. Well, my target is summer, but I will probably end up doing it in fall. We have a couple of big things happening in the next 2 months that may slow down my progress. But it'll definitely be probably by September.
All right, very
That's
cool.
the other thing about independent. You just like, oh yeah,
Yeah, you make up your own timeline,
I'll
right?
just still make it up. Yeah.
Master of your own destiny.
Yes.
All right, Luella, should we jump into the WWA message?
Absolutely.
Today's writing tip comes from friend of the program, Rob Grindstaff. He's going to give us a couple of minutes on realistic dialogue. Take it away, Rob.
This is Rob Grindstaff. Today we're going to talk about realistic dialogue and some tips on how to check your dialogue. Ernest Hemingway is often credited with saying, don't write realistic dialogue. Create the illusion of realistic dialogue. If you've ever read a transcript of an actual conversation, you'll know what he's talking about. It just doesn't sound natural, even though it was obviously natural dialogue. So how do we do this? Here are my standard procedures and some tips on how to check to see if your dialogue is succeeding the way you want it to. First off, I recommend not writing a script and then forcing your characters to read it. Know your characters inside and out, put them in a scene, and then listen to them talk. Take dictation. You can edit it later. Blend and mix your dialogue with action, description, and internal thoughts. Avoid long stretches of dialogue that can quickly morph into the floating heads type of scene where readers become untethered to what's happening. Number 3, keep it lean. Only keep the important parts of the dialogue. Skip or summarize the less important parts in the chit chat. You want to keep the scene moving. Keep it natural. Use contractions. Write dialogue the way people speak. Use a light touch, very light, of dialect or accent if you're using that when appropriate. Write it the way people really speak, but you want to make sure that readers can read it and understand it. Uh, Mix up your sentence lengths to add rhythm to the reading and to increase or decrease the pace as needed. Short sentences increase the pace, but all short sentences sound choppy. Longer sentences slow the pace down and give the reader a breather, but too many long sentences becomes dull and monotonous. Use a variety of methods to attribute dialogue so readers always know who is speaking, such as action beats and internal thoughts, without constantly interrupting dialogue with a dialogue tag on every line. Also, avoid getting too creative with your dialogue tags, he pontificated wisely. The word said is virtually invisible. When you need a dialogue tag, rely on it. Read your dialogue out loud, skipping all the narration. You'll be surprised how many unnatural pieces of dialogue you'll uncover if you read it out loud, or even missing words here and there. Have your computer's voice to text read it to you while you follow along, listening for those missing words or parts that just don't sound right. Now, if you have a really close friend, the kind that would help you move out of your apartment or will drive you to the airport at 4 in the morning, have a friend read it out loud with you while you follow along. Where does the reader stumble or unconsciously change wording to something that sounds more natural? And ask your beta readers for feedback specifically on dialogue. Is it lean? Is it natural? And is it realistic? If you have a great story and engaging characters, but the dialogue falls flat, it can kill your story. Compelling, realistic dialogue can lift your characters to new heights.
All right, back to Sarah. So we're going to turn a little bit to what your years of expertise can share and help the other writers, including ourselves, Ken and I. What kind of writing advice do you have for, I don't know, let's say overcoming things like writer's block or just staying on task? Do you have any advice for us?
I do. The writer's block, I think, sometimes I have to find my way through it, and I do that by bringing in other activities. So I might paint, or just anything that moves that energy, because sometimes the block is just we have a question about what we're writing and we haven't figured it out yet. And really the way to figure it out is to write through it, even if it's not going to be the final part. But we stop ourselves. So sometimes I'll just shift to something else. I'll do some painting. I'll move that energy of block, and it won't be a painting that I'm going to hang on the wall. It's just like this is like playing, right? And then I'll come back to it and just say, okay, well, I was making a mess on the canvas. Let me just make a mess here and see where it leads me, because I can cut out the mess. I can fix that later and end up with something. So that's what I do. And I'm not, I sometimes I say, oh, just write every day. And I'm like, I can't say that because I don't do it. There are days where I write every day. There are weeks where I write every day. And there are times where I just don't. And I think that I need that stop and, I need the times off for myself. So every writer is different. And I would encourage writers to understand how their process works, what helps them be the most efficient without it being like I have to, because I will resist if it's too much structure and you have to do this, and I'll be like, can't tell me what I have to do.
Oh my
Like,
God, I can so relate to that.
it's like I don't have to do that. It got me into a lot of trouble in high school, I will tell you. So I would say learn yourself and support yourself the way that it works for you. that's my,
Yeah.
yeah.
We've had other guests who, and other just, brilliant writers who insist that there really is no such thing as writer's block. And so I guess,
Mhm.
just, whatever it is that makes you feel stuck, but I love your advice there.
Thanks.
So you say you don't really write every day. Do you have kind of, a process that you do follow? Like, are you always, when you are writing, it's in the morning or, anything that's a routine
Um,
for you?
it's it's changed a lot. Now when I was like, depending on where I've been, and because my journey of writing these books also involved traveling, it was it was carving out time. And I've even figured out how to write in the car. So, because I get to be the passenger, so I'll set up my laptop or my iPad, and if we're not going on curvy roads or it's not, crazy, as long as the light is right and I'm not like, oh, I will be able to write and or get down some my ideas, write down my beats. And when I can't sit and focus on really writing a chapter, I'll just play with the brainstorming and write some beats, write some of the scenes that I know I need that are coming. Like, this is going to happen. What's happening with so and so? This is why. And I'll just write the little phrases for myself to trigger it when I can sit down to write, so that then I just look at that list and I go, okay, and I start on one and I'll write it out. Um, Instead of always having to be like write it in chapter form. Like, this is
I
the
like
first
that.
book that I've actually been writing chapter by chapter. My first book I wrote the scenes that came to me, and it was all very like, oh, this is going to happen, and I write it, and then I figured out, I'm like, oh, shoot, I have a puzzle. I had to figure out where all the scenes went and how they came together and how the story. And I was like, oh, that was hard. I need to maybe write them in more of an order, like have more of a plan. Um, so I'm trying to have a plan without being overly structured. So
Yeah.
I'm still learning what works for me too. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. That somehow that makes me feel reassured that I don't have a process yet either. I'm still figuring it out.
I would
So are
just
We
you
all
a
are.
word? Well, go
right. I
ahead,
would just
Ken.
like to note that if I tried to write in the car because I'm such a wimp, I would throw up all over the place and no book would ever get done.
I'm sorry.
So are you a word user or scrivener? Do you have a tool that you sort of swear by, or you just kind of?
Um, I I was using Scrivener. I've started it all in Pages because I have a Mac. But then I moved it to Scrivener. But once it got to the point where I was sending it to editors, I kept it in Word because everybody needed it in Word. And the converting back and forth in Scrivener, they don't always convert right, and I lose italics or I lose this, and I'm like, ah. So and I don't have patience in that way, so
Makes a
I
lot of
just keep
sense.
it in Word. And now, right now, I'm just writing it in Word. It's, but um, I'm basically I'm writing each chapter in a separate document so that it's easier for me to do edits in the beginning and figure out if I need to add something or take it away. And I'm not searching through it, 200 pages of something. So that's my help for myself to find things.
I love it.
Yeah.
All right. So now we're up to the special sauce question, Sarah,
Uh-oh.
my favorite. So for new listeners, this is a question that we ask all of our guests, that is supposed to be something about a little deeper about you, something that is unusual or of interest to you that is less related to writing. So what do you got for us?
I think it's adaptability and pivoting a lot. And honestly, as a kid, they didn't diagnose ADD much when I was a kid. That came a little after me. But I'm pretty sure the teachers complaining that I daydream too much was a sign of that. But it was also, I kind of think it's a gift because I am very adaptable to different situations, which is why I was able to write while I was traveling or can figure out writing in the car, even if it's not for 4 hours, I can do snippets of it. And um, I've had so many different careers or jobs, different industries, because I do get bored. And boredom just means I'm looking for a new challenge. I'm looking for something else to learn and another way to grow and another thing to complicate my life. I don't know. But I think that's part of it. And also in my openness and desire to help people in a way that is a problem solving, right? So Scribe Hive is essentially me figuring out how to solve a problem, right? It's like, okay, let's do this. So, and then, I mean, I did give myself a job that I don't get paid for, but it's okay because it's fun and like the authors are fantastic and it's great. So,
And you get to
So,
learn as you go as well.
yes, exactly. I'm learning a lot.
Yeah.
so I
And I'm
noticed
reading a lot of great stuff.
you reached level 2 sommelier in the
Uh-huh.
wine industry. So I wish I knew more about wine. I'm like, it's light, it's dark, it's cold, or it's room temperature. That's about as much as I know. How many levels of sommelier are there, and what does level 2 mean?
So level two means in the program that I did was called ISG, International Sommelier Guild, and I was working in the wine industry at the time. So level two means it's sort of the mid-level. Um, in terms of courses. So there's level one, which is really the basics. It's kind of, hey, their wines are made of varietals. They come from different places. These are some of the regions, and this is, white wine is made a little bit differently than red wine or what have you. And then level two goes deeper, and you have to, tasting is involved in that. So one of the tests, for it is your blind tasting wines and identifying them and by not just the varietal, but where they're from and what the price point is. And at the time, I was working in a wine store, so I was tasting a lot of wine, so it made it easier. I have really dumbed down my palate since then because when you're not getting a discount or free wine, it's really expensive. Uh, so I'm like, I love really good wine, but I don't typically buy it. It's so level two is there, and then there's a level three, and then there's masters. So there's another system called quartermasters, and that makes it more clear that there's kind of four levels. But the masters is a much longer section, and it involves um, way more detail than I had the desire for.
Got
And
it.
when you first start something and you think, oh, I'm going to do this and I'm going to be a teacher, and then you change your mind. In the middle of that, I, moved, and I moved to take care of my mom for a few years. And the importance of learning about wine just sort of went away. And it's like, no, I'm just going to enjoy it and not worry about it. And I don't want it to be my life. So,
Very nice.
yeah.
Someday I'll talk about my first wine tasting experience, which, as you can imagine, was quite a disaster because nobody told me I wasn't supposed to drink each and every glass on the tables as I passed through. So by the end,
It's
it was not pretty.
Yeah, no, I get you. I've
I'm
seen
really
a lot.
looking forward to hearing that story. Okay,
All right,
so just
Sarah.
real quickly, can I
Yeah.
just say about the special sauce? So Sarah is talking about how she, you know, is a dreamer, right? And has
Yes.
done so many things, but I just want to say because we asked her to fill out this form. She's worked in kids software, web development, tech, project management, customer service, retail, had a small personal chef catering business, had a side cookie business, worked in the wine industry, like we were just talking about. She was a massage therapist, she was a Reiki healer. I mean, she's done all kinds of cool stuff, which I just find delightful. I mean, you are just
Yeah.
following your love and your passion, and I just think that's really cool.
Thank you.
That's a great
Yeah.
special sauce.
And and it's all in a way it's all survival stuff, right? Like when I was working 60 hours a week in a web development agency, I started taking massage classes because it like balanced out my my life a little bit. It's like, okay, I'm on the computer all day long. I can't do this. Yeah. What am I gonna do? Yeah.
I like how you phrase that survival stuff. That's very cool. All right, so tell listeners out there where they can find you in the virtual world.
You can find me, Serra Wildheart, at serrawildheart.com. I'm also on Facebook and Instagram, and Scribe Hive Publishing, also scribehivepublishing.com. There's also a Facebook and Instagram, which I do not post to enough, but it's okay. And the Rebel Dogs have their website too for their book, and their book raises money for animal rescues and organizations. So,
Very nice. We'll throw those links down in the show notes. All
thank
right,
you.
Luella, is it time for good news?
It is definitely time for good news, our favorite time. If you'd like to share your good news with us, we'd be happy to throw a shout out on the podcast. You can email us at podcast@wiwrite.org. Ken, you're up first.
All right. So earlier in February, I had an event at Blue House Books in Kenosha, which is nice. Luella came, she visited me there, got to hang out with my family afterwards, and I thought that was a great time. Sold my inventory, which is all you can ask. But one of the coolest things that came out of it was some other authors, either locally or even up in the Milwaukee area, asking me how to connect with Blue House Books so they can also do the signing, right? They had seen some of the promos for it. And so it's kind of nice to help pay it forward and give them the connections to say, here's who you want to contact, and here's how it works with them. So I was very excited about that. I like doing that author appearance. Sarah,
Hey,
what do you got for
can
good
I
news?
jump in quick before
Yeah.
we turn it to Sarah? So it was so fun to see Ken in his element and have all these, he had a signing and a big stack of his books, and it was about, well, we did an episode on the breakfast jury, right? But it was fun to see all the people that showed out. Like there was a lot of folks that, like, we bumped into a WWA member, right, who was there, and I also chatted with some folks that were just so into the trial that his book was about, that they were just there because they follow it all, and other people were writers and other people were just fans of the bookstore. It was
Yeah.
just a really cool event. So I was very proud of you, my friend.
Thank you. There was actually one lady who was just grilling me about the book, and not even the trial part, but the murder mystery plot, that I was kind of backpedaling thinking, wow, I don't remember writing that part, but sure, I must have thought that. I mean, just kind of scrambling to find an answer. It's like, man, she's more into this than I am. Sarah, what do you got for good news?
Well, I think I'll share that. I got married in August to Dog Dad, and we
Congratulations.
saved our honeymoon. So we're going to California, which is where I'm from, and we've decided to make it a book tour. So we've lined up a couple of potograph sessions. We do it at like the humane societies and stuff with the dogs, so they sign their little puppy prints, or potographs, and we lined up a couple of those, so it'll be fun. We'll be in California from March 26th through April 14th, I think, traveling the state and doing some little potograph sessions. And mine too. But honestly, we get more people when it's about the dogs than if I were doing it myself. So they are my best marketing.
Luella, can we agree that Sarah just does things cooler
Oh
than
my
the rest
gosh.
of us?
Can we
Like
talk
my
about the
honeymoon
word
was just,
potograph?
a week
Like,
on a beach, right? I mean,
I
just
know,
simple
I
stuff.
laughed out loud at potograph alone, let alone the concept.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
Here's
my brain.
my good news. I actually have a good news this time. So
Ooh.
one of my favorite writers is George Saunders, and I am a part of his story club, which is, I think, like a $6 a month Substack subscription, and he teaches us how to analyze short stories and how to write. And I've read several of his books, and one of my girlfriends went to see him in St. Louis, and he did a book signing, and she told him all about me and about how much I love him. And he wrote my name in this book. It says, "To Luella, revision equals love." And I literally cried last
Aw,
night when she gave it to me. I could not believe it. So that's my good news.
that's
Sort
awesome.
writing related.
It
All
is.
right. So listeners, again, that's podcast@wiwrite.org. We would love to share your good news.
All right. At this time, I want to thank Sarah Tilton, also known as Serra Wildheart, for coming on and joining us on the pod. If you enjoyed this episode, please give us a 5-star rating in your podcast app of choice. This is the type of action that helps other writers find us. Thanks for hanging out with us in the Midwest Writers Room. I'm Ken Humphrey.
And I'm Luella Schmidt. Words ignite imaginations and spark change. Never underestimate the power of storytelling.
Midwest Writers Room is a production of the Wisconsin Writers Association. Writing and editing by Luella Schmidt and Ken Humphrey. Sound design and editing by Ken Humphrey. Music for the Midwest Writers Room was written by Michael Ramirez C. For more information, please visit wiwrite.org/podcast. Thank you.